Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Nicolas Maduro making his first court appearance in New York. The leader of the Venezuelan regime pleading not guilty to charges tied to drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and arms violations. Lawmakers react to the capture of Nicolas Maduro, Republicans praising the move while Democrats want to restrict the Trump administration. President Trump says U.S. oil companies are going to spend billions of dollars in Venezuela to fix the oil infrastructure. The value of Venezuela's oil reserves is comparable to the entire market cap of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta, Alphabet, and Tesla combined. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz no longer running for a third term. How he explains his decision amid nationwide attention on alleged fraud in his state. A Cincinnati man is in custody after allegedly vandalizing Vice President J.D. Vance's home, breaking windows and damaging a vehicle.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Breaking news, Venezuelan regime leader Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty to drug trafficking and weapons charges. He and his wife, Celia Flores, made their first court appearance in New York City. His wife also entered a not guilty plea. Maduro's indictment alleges he and other Venezuelan leaders abused their position of public trust to import tons of cocaine into the United States. It also says Maduro and his allies provided law enforcement cover and logistical support to major drug trafficking groups such as the Sinaloa cartel and the Trendy Agua gang. After being read a summary of the charges against him, Maduro told Judge Alvin Hellenstein, in Spanish, quote, "I am not guilty," adding, quote, "I am a decent man. I am still the president of my country." Maduro's lawyer said he is not seeking release at this time on bail, but that he may later. The next court hearing in the case will be March 11, or rather March 17 at 11 a.m. Maduro is accused of selling Venezuelan diplomatic passports to known drug traffickers. He's also charged with facilitating flights under diplomatic cover to bring drug proceeds back from Mexico to Venezuela. He was indicted on 4 counts, including narco-terrorism, weapons offenses, and drug trafficking. His wife, Celia Flores, is accused of ordering kidnappings and murders and accepting bribes. It could be several months or even more than a year before Maduro stands trial. He will be detained at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, the same jail where Luigi Mangione is being held. And Venezuela's interim leader is former Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who has condemned the capture of Maduro and his wife and called for their immediate release.
President Trump issued a stern warning to interim leader Delcy Rodriguez.
I just say that she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because, Maduro gave up.
Trump says his administration won't tolerate what he described as her defiant rejection of U.S. intervention. The president says a second strike on Venezuela is possible if its leaders, quote, do not behave. Rodriguez wrote on Facebook that Venezuela invited the U.S. government to collaborate with them on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law, but added that President Nicolas Maduro's message has always been that the people of Venezuela and the region deserve peace and dialogue, not war. President Trump also discussed the current leadership in Venezuela aboard Air Force One today.
And don't ask me who's in charge, because I'll give you an answer and it'll be very controversial.
What does that mean?
It means we're in charge.
Have you spoken with her?
We're in charge.
Trump says they have been in contact with service members who were injured during the operation, saying they are all in good shape.
Amazing talent and tremendous patriotism, bravery. The bravery was incredible. Lindsay, they got off the helicopter and the bullets were flying all over the place. As you know, one of the helicopters got hit pretty badly, but that we got everything back. Got everything back and nobody killed.
The president pushed back on reporters saying he has changed his stance on nation building.
This isn't a country that's on the other side of the world. This isn't a country like we have to travel 24 hours in an airplane. This is Venezuela. It's in our area. The Don Road Doctrine. We're in the business of having countries around us that are viable and successful.
Trump elaborated on what will happen with the country's oil.
So we're going to have the big oil companies go in. They're going to fix the infrastructure. They're going to invest money. We're not going to invest anything. We're going to just take care of the country. We're going to cherish the country. We're going to take care, more importantly, of the people, including Venezuelans that are living in our country.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio also discussed oil and the influence of U.S. adversaries in the region, speaking on Meet the Press.
What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Rubio says the operation in Venezuela didn't need congressional approval because it was a law enforcement operation with no invasion or occupation. He added that the Pentagon will maintain its military blockade around Venezuela to apply leverage on the country's socialist regime. Rubio criticized reports that the UN denied Maduro's involvement in the drug trade.
I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
A significant portion of Maduro's security team was killed in the U.S. operation, according to Venezuelan officials. Venezuelans at a rally in Florida yesterday thanked President Trump for ousting the dictator Maduro.
Today I feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's some hope.
We are very, very much thankful to President Trump for this commitment to eliminate Maduro from that has been kidnapping the whole society, our whole economy, who has been destroyed, the country completely looted.
And Venezuelans living in Puerto Rico rallied in its capital San Juan yesterday to celebrate the capture of Maduro. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Venezuela's government is ordering police to arrest anyone involved in supporting the U.S. military operation in the country. It's the latest attack on the rights of the Venezuelan people by the nation's government. The order to arrest people sympathizing with the operation is part of a decree the government published. The document orders law enforcement to immediately begin the national search and capture of anyone and everyone involved in support of the operation. The decree has been in force since Saturday, but was published in full today. President Trump says drug traffickers in Colombia and Mexico could be facing action by the U.S. military. The president also predicted that Cuba's communist regime is likely to fall.
That Cuba is ready to fall. You know? Yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they can hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
You were just talking about Cuba and what could come next there. Are you considering U.S. action in Cuba?
We're not. I think it's just going to fall. I don't think we need any action. It looks like it's going down. It's going down for the count. You ever watch a fight?
I have.
They go down for the count. And Cuba looks like it's going down. What do you think, Howard? It's going down.
The president also discussed Colombia, describing it as very sick. Trump said the country is run by a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. The president said, quote, he's not going to be doing it very long, let me tell you. Seemingly referring to Colombian President Gustavo Petro. Trump also warned that the United States might have to, quote, do something with Mexico. Trump said the country's government is not doing enough to combat drug cartels, saying they're very strong in Mexico. The president said he has offered troops to Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum to help combat drug trafficking. But he said Sheinbaum was just not willing and a little afraid. Today, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz defended the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro.
There is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years. I particularly want to thank you.
During an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council, Ambassador Waltz tried to make it clear that this was not an attack on Venezuela. Instead, Waltz insisted the military force was used to capture a wanted criminal. He went on to criticize Maduro for attacks on Americans through drug trafficking and cartels, which President Trump recently labeled as terrorist organizations.
The United States wants a better future for Venezuela. We believe a better future for the people of Venezuela and for the people of the region and the world is stabilizing the region and making the neighborhood that we live in a much better and safer place.
The UN Security Council's 15-member body is split over the forceful capture of Maduro. A little more than half are condemning the decision. Russia and China are included in the UN members that condemned the move. Switzerland has responded to Maduro's capture by freezing any of his assets in the country. The Swiss government said this will prevent any assets that may have been obtained illegally from being moved out of the country. This freeze takes effect immediately and applies to Maduro and people close to him. The Swiss government did not say how many assets are linked to Maduro. It added that no current member of Venezuela's government is affected by the freeze. The freeze will remain valid for 4 years until further notice. With us now is Michael Waller, Senior Analyst for Strategy at the Center for Security Policy. Waller is a longtime national security specialist and author of the book Big Intel, drawing on his early years in the CIA under the Reagan administration. So, Michael, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Maduro and his wife pleaded not guilty to all the charges. What do you expect the prosecution case to look like or focus on?
Well, it will focus on their crimes against the United States and crimes against any American citizens. So there is a lot there in those two indictments, especially the superseding indictment, where it's a criminal conspiracy of a long time, running an organized criminal enterprise to flood our country with cocaine and to commit and sponsor terrorism.
So a lawyer for Maduro questioned the legality of his capture in Venezuela. Is that a legitimate concern for the U.S.?
I don't think it is. As long as he was read his Miranda rights, I'm sure everything's going to be okay. But when you consider you have to go in with military force to protect the law enforcement officers who are there to conduct the arrest. So it wasn't a military operation per se. It was a judicial one where even in the United States, you'll have a lot of backup to serve certain types of warrants and to arrest certain people. So it seems on the up and up to me. This was very carefully planned.
So, Michael, President Trump says the U.S. is running Venezuela for now. What's the latest you're hearing about how things are developing there?
Well, these things are transitional. First, you're going to have a lot of bluster. If they're going to be arresting Venezuelans who were supporting us, they're going to be arresting regime elements who betrayed Maduro and who are still working with us. So there's a lot that remains to be seen. Right now, Venezuela is having a hard enough time governing itself. It has its the Cubans run the whole internal security apparatus of the country. So the Venezuelans don't even run that. They never have. And you're seeing now, I think you'll see a lot more of Venezuelans becoming more and more assertive in taking back their country the way you're seeing the young people doing it in Iran.
So, Michael, it looks like some are criticizing the Trump administration for what they're calling nation building. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio has responded. I have a clip here I would like you to listen to. Take a look.
Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America.
So, Michael, where do you stand? Do you agree with Rubio on this?
Absolutely. Venezuela is a wealthy country, and it's not wealthy in the sense of a small cartel, oil cartel running the country. It's got a 100-year oil business in the country. It's got the largest reserves in the world. It has a huge supply of gold and other minerals. Very sophisticated, highly educated, democratic-oriented population. It was the wealthiest country in South America, so it's not going to need handouts as if it was, Chad or some other basket case country. The Venezuelans can do this on their own.
Now, another thing, Rubio mentioned what he called the Iranian agents running around Venezuela. Trump also recently warned Iran not to kill peaceful protesters, right? What message is Maduro's capture and everything that's followed sending to dictators around the world, like, for example, the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah. Well, first is letting them know that Donald, you won't see Trump coming when he comes after you. He might say a lot, he might bluster a lot, but he's going to make good on what he does. And a lot of the things he didn't do in his first term, he's making up for right now. Grabbing Maduro is one of them. And Maduro is a linchpin for the Chinese Communist Party's strategy. Right now, when they're finishing up their next 5-year plan, they were planning on having a stable Maduro and turning the Caribbean into a PLA Navy patrolling ground. And they were depending on Venezuela for that. So the CCP is not going to be able to project military power into the Caribbean the way it had planned to with Maduro, puppet regime there for it. There's going to be a lot that's going to be throwing the CCP off. They were buying heavily discounted oil from Venezuela and Iran, as they are with Russia, because of the embargoes on those countries. There aren't many countries that can pay for oil and not in dollars. So the CCP has been paying in yuan, which others don't really want, and you have to ordinarily pay in petrodollars. So they've been buying discounted oil in Chinese currency from Iran and Venezuela. They're not going to be able to do that anymore. And there's only so much of a squeeze they can put on Russia because Russia needs to sell its oil, but not at a huge discount. So this is going to really think of the elements inside China, the national oil companies, the coastal provinces that depend on so much refineries, the new refineries that were built specifically to refine Venezuela's particular heavy crude oil. That's all now thrown into a huge mess for the CCP to deal with. And I think you're going to see a lot of problems coming up for Xi Jinping.
And you said just now earlier that you won't see Trump coming, and Rubio actually said something similar in vein that you shouldn't play games with this president, right? And Michael, just finally, I want to ask you this. What are you watching most closely out of all things right now as this situation develops?
Well, I'm really watching whatever the Chinese Communist Party is doing to project its power and subversion around the world. I have a particular interest in Latin America and the Caribbean, so I've been watching that very closely. We'll need to watch out for small actors like the little island country of Antigua and Barbuda, which the CCP has bought off. They built a big Belt and Road freight seaport there that's dual use for a PLA Navy. They extended a 10,000-foot airstrip that can handle any strategic airlift in the world. So these types of regimes are going to be next. So the CCP's they're going to lose wherever they're going. But I think their entire Western Hemisphere strategy has just been wrecked.
Well, Michael, it's really good to speak with you today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good to be with you.
Florida leaders have convened to celebrate a new day of freedom for Venezuela and to address the situation there and its impact at home. NTD's Chris Bob brings us more from Doral, Florida.
We heard from a number of people here. We had Senator Rick Scott from Florida. We had Senator Ashley Moody, as well as another congressman who represents the area. They talked about what a tremendous victory this was for not only the American people, but also the Venezuelan people. Inside that restaurant behind me, there was tens of Venezuelan Americans who were clapping and applauding every time the name Marco Rubio was mentioned, or Donald Trump. They were very excited for the future of their country, but they're also, reflecting and hoping and praying that things turn out much better than what had happened under Maduro. We have some clips about why this is in America's interest with Rick Scott. Let's listen.
Some people say, oh, is this good for America? Think about why it's going to be good for America. We're going to have a new trading partner. People we know, our friends and our family, are going to be able to live their dream in Venezuela. We're going to have lower oil and gas prices.
Far too long, the Venezuelan people have lived under a dictator who is a criminal, a drug trafficker, who went through position after position in Venezuela and used those positions for his own profit, for his cronies, and he hijacked that government. He was never the legitimate leader. He is not the rightful president. Indeed, he is a criminal that has now been brought here to the United States to face justice, as he should have been a long time ago.
Was Ashley Moody talking about the Maduro regime, how he's not a legitimate leader, he is a criminal, a narcotics trafficker, a drug dealer. Those were the words that were echoed by the people. I also spoke behind me not only to elected officials, but also to people who had left Venezuela. Either more recently, there were some people there who were around my age in their 20s, but there were also people who left around the time that Hugo Chavez took over during the first socialist regime. And they shared with me that the levels of corruption under Maduro made it impossible for them to return home. And what Trump does by capturing Maduro and taking him here and trying him is giving them hope that there's going to be a democratic Venezuela in the future, that there's hope that they'll be able to return back home. And now I also spoke to a Cuban-American representative from Miami. He was born in Cuba, and then he emigrated here with his parents when Castro took over. We're going to listen to his clip now.
I'm heartened also by the words that were spoken by the president yesterday, saying he's now turned his eye a little bit over to Cuba.
Who was surrounding Nicolas Maduro when U.S. troops went in? Cubans. Cuban security was. So Cuba has basically taken over Venezuela. This little bankrupt little island was in charge of Venezuela. So they're the cancer of our hemisphere. That regime is in its weakest position it's been in decades. Venezuela was one of the states propping it up. Now that's gone away. We think that Cuba may just fall under the weight of its own incompetency and corruption and abuses of its people.
Representative Carlos Jimenez there talking about Cuba being propped up by Venezuela and vice versa. You saw that a number of, a couple dozen Cubans were killed when the U.S. came and they captured Maduro. What I was really impressed with was the ability for some of the younger individuals there to speak to me, and we will have these clips later, probably during the evening news, about the true nature of socialism and how it impacted them when they were growing up in Venezuela. I had one story which really touched me of a guy explaining when he was young. He could take a shower. There was no problem. Actually, one said that they had televisions in Havana before they had them in many parts of the United States. But as he got older, and this young kid also told me, they had to fill up large buckets of water to take showers in the capital city of Havana. They had to, scrape together what they could to survive. So there's a lot of hope and promise in their eyes. Even though they're asylum seekers here now and they're refugees, they want to return home, and they're very hopeful that the future will be better for them. So we're going to be continuing to follow what goes on there, and we're going to see if Cuba is next on the list.
The Trump administration now addressing the concerns of Venezuelans in the U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says Venezuelans who lost temporary protected status will have a pathway to asylum. Noem says every former TPS recipient will receive an individual review. The Supreme Court officially allowed the Trump administration to end protected status for more than 500,000 Venezuelans in the U.S. this weekend, a process that began last spring. The policy shift follows the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. President Trump says the United States will temporarily oversee Venezuela to ensure a stable transition. Despite Maduro's arrest, Venezuela's vice president insists he remains the country's legitimate leader. Noam told Fox News Sunday the United States wants a leader in Venezuela who will be a partner that understands American interests. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pazdar has more.
Besides capturing Maduro, the U.S. also hit various military bases in Venezuela. Footage shows the aftermath of the strikes on Sunday. The plan to capture the socialist leader had been in the works for months and included detailed rehearsals. Elite U.S. troops reportedly created an exact replica of Maduro's safe house. They practiced how they would enter the strongly fortified residence to make sure the operation wouldn't fail. The U.S. quickly reopened the airspace in the Caribbean after the successful military operation. This after key airlines cancelled hundreds of flights. Major companies such as United Airlines, American Airlines, Spirit and Delta already resumed flights early on Sunday. A look at air traffic from Flight Radar 24 shows that the airspace above Venezuela is still mostly empty as of Sunday afternoon. Venezuelan refugees in Colombia are now celebrating the fall of the socialist regime.
We are celebrating, seeing Maduro behind bars, taken to the United States because of all the damage that man did.
It's really something we've been fighting for a long time, an experience that has truly been unforgettable today.
Heads of state from across the globe are weighing in as well.
I want to express the entire government's support for the determined decision and action of the United States to restore freedom and justice to that part of the world as well.
After hearing the U.S. captured Maduro, Argentine President Javier Milei said, quote, "Today's news is excellent news for the free world." Some countries are opting not to take a direct stance, neither for the U.S. nor for Venezuela. Canada, Germany, France, Paraguay and others are instead calling for democracy to prevail, with some saying international law must be respected. And a few countries like China, North Korea, Russia and others are directly siding with socialist Nicolas Maduro. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
President Trump says U.S. oil companies are going to spend billions of dollars in Venezuela to fix the oil infrastructure. We talk to an economist after this break when we come back. Don't go away.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. You know, I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Venezuela's future must be decided by Venezuelans. The comments follow a phone call with Venezuela's opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado. Machado recently won the Nobel Peace Prize, dedicating it in part to President Trump for his support. She has denounced Maduro over alleged human rights abuses and election manipulation that blocked her and her allies from winning power. Prime Minister Carney said Canada supports a peaceful Venezuelan-led transition of power, stressing respect for the democratic will of the Venezuelan people. President Trump said the United States will temporarily run Venezuela until a transition is completed. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban commented today on the U.S. decision to arrest Nicolas Maduro. Orban says the move should have a positive impact on world energy markets, with the U.S. potentially controlling 40 to 50% of the world's oil reserves.
Each comparison is more than dangerous. So if you allow me, I would not like to make any comparison between the Russian-Ukrainian war and Venezuela, United States, whatever. Each cases are different by legal character and by political context as well. So comparison is not helpful here.
U.S. oil companies' shares jumped today, fueled by the prospect of access to Venezuela's vast oil reserves. Venezuela holds the world's largest oil reserves, but production has plummeted in recent decades following the nationalization of its oil industry and sanctions. Shares of Chevron climbed nearly 7% in pre-market trading. Other companies were up between 4 and 11%. Oil prices were largely flat today as ample global supplies continue to weigh on the market. President Trump says U.S. oil companies are going to spend billions of dollars in Venezuela to fix the oil infrastructure to start making money for the country and improve living standards in Venezuela. Joining us to discuss is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis Hedge Fund, international financial analyst and author of the book Freedom or Equality. Daniel, good afternoon. Happy New Year. So Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, but makes less than 1% of global oil production. So, I mean, a lot of potential to be tapped into here from a petroleum extraction perspective. But I want to ask you, how long are we looking at here for the U.S. to fully rebuild Venezuela's oil sector?
Hi, Happy New Year. I think it's going to take quite a bit of time. You have to remember a few things. The socialist regime in Venezuela has completely bankrupted the oil company of the nation, PDVSA. It's got more than $41 billion of debt. And as you mentioned, production has completely been destroyed. It was at the peak producing 3.5 million barrels a day, and now it barely produces 1 million barrels. So I think that a lot of things have to be changed, and it's going to be a challenging task. You are showing some very relevant footage that shows how in many of the areas in shallow waters, but also in deep water, a lot of the infrastructure in Venezuela is not just old. It is derelict. There is a lot of Russian equipment, Chinese substandard equipment that has been used in recent times to try to patch up things in the easiest and cheapest possible way. Furthermore, there is a very, very significant problem with PDVSA because the regime, the narco dictatorship of Maduro, has been giving away oil for free to countries like Cuba, like China itself. So a lot of things have to change in order to recover. And we have to remember that 27 years ago, PDVSA, the national oil company of Venezuela, was one of the most efficient in the world. What the Chavez regime and then Maduro continued with it did was to completely destroy the company from within. All of the great engineers that PDVSA had to flee the country, and they were replaced by politicians, by people close to the Chavez regime. And it's basically a machine that is run to multiply the problems of cronyism and dictatorship enrichment that we have seen in previous years. So a lot of things have to be done, and it's going to take a while. But once it is done, certainly Venezuela can benefit massively by coming back to a situation in which the national oil company is delivering not only oil at the rate that it's supposed to be delivering, 3.5-4 million barrels a day, but also in order to get a lot more of those benefits for the Venezuelan people instead of making it a crony machine for the enrichment of the leaders of the regime.
So you just talked about the dramatic reduction of oil production under the socialist regime in Venezuela. Can you now talk about the economy? Inflation is high, the currency is weak, the poverty rate is high. So under the socialist regime, how did the state of the economy get to this point?
Kasparov used to say that Venezuela is not the result of when socialism fails, but the result of what happens when socialism succeeds. And it's absolutely true. With a policy of expropriation, constant destruction of private property, and the utilization of the productive fabric of the nation to make the leaders of the Chavez regime very rich and everybody else very poor, the results have been staggering. The GDP of Venezuela right now is about a quarter of what it was 25 years ago. The level of poverty is about 90%, 90. There's been 8 million people that have had to leave the country, that have fled the country, and the level of repression in the country is brutal. Maduro in the last 10 years has murdered more than 10,000 people. There are hundreds of people that are imprisoned simply for having a WhatsApp message that is considered to be seditious. So, and you are seeing some footage of the queues to get the basic elements of food in a country that was one of the richest in the region. No? So the destruction of the economy has been absolutely staggering. But more importantly, what has happened is a very, very, very well-designed program of theft. The leaders of the regime are massively rich. They are multimillionaires. We have just learned today that Switzerland has frozen the assets of the Maduro family. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars that have been stolen from the country in order to keep the country impoverished. And the destruction of the currency was done by design. You have seen, for example, how this year inflation was 45%, but the currency in Venezuela throughout the Maduro regime has lost 12 zeros. We're talking about levels of inflation that are not even imaginable by most Americans. And that process of destruction of the purchasing power of the currency was done by design because it's a way of stealing the wealth of the nation and making all of the available dollars stolen and kept by the leaders of the socialist regime.
Wow, that's incredible. 12 zeros. I mean, it sounds like this is a huge undertaking, but if the U.S. is able to, in fact, restore the oil sector, improve its economy, my question is, would it be difficult to guarantee things are going to stay that way and we don't get a repeat of what we've seen before?
That is why it's so important, and it's been so misunderstood what we have heard these days from the Trump administration. It's so important that the transition is done properly. And when we talk about a proper transition, it means that the Venezuelan government needs to eliminate all of the crony elements in the institutions that were taken over by the Chavista, by the socialist regime, in order to perpetuate itself. So the judiciary system, the army, the police, so many of the institutions of Venezuela have been co-opted and taken over by the socialist regime, and they need to be cleaned up. They need to be made independent institutions that work properly, as they did in the past. All those things are absolutely crucial. That's why the U.S. needs to put together with the democratically elected opposition a credible plan that leads to the transition to a really democratic regime. And what we are seeing, for example, it continues to exist today, is that we have a lot of these groups, of armed groups that are financed by the socialist regime and that are implementing a policy of terror all over Venezuela. Those have to be eliminated as well. So there's quite a lot that needs to be done, but all these things can be achieved with a credible plan that is implemented with the knowledge that all those elements, the recovery of independent institutions and the elimination of all these crony sectors are elements that need to be done very, very swiftly and that need to be done radically.
All right, so Daniel, I was looking into this and I thought Forbes made a good point that puts things into perspective. It reports that the value of Venezuela's oil essentially equals the entire Magnificent Seven combined. So that's like Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla, and the like. So what would be the benefits if the U.S. And its actions unlocks this powerful economic force that is Venezuelans' oil reserves? What would be the benefits?
Most of Venezuelan oil is heavy oil. This is very, very good oil when it comes to refining and therefore having lower prices of gas and that of gasoline for the people in Europe that are watching us. So lower prices of gas would be an immediate effect. We have seen today in the markets how most of the sector is reacting very, very positively to the possibility of having one of the largest OPEC members coming back to produce as much as it produced in the past. And it's welcomed also by Saudi Arabia and the rest of the OPEC members if that happens. No? So lower gas prices, a much better environment in terms of the geopolitical risk. You must remember as well that Venezuela was a key factor in trying to implement an OPEC policy that went against consumers, went against their clients. So Venezuela sided alongside Iran, trying to implement a policy of raising prices to very, very elevated levels that certainly hurt the importing economies. So for all of the exporters and importers, swift recovery of the Venezuelan oil sector is a key factor to stabilize the market, to improve the level of supply of heavy oil, and at the same time, with it, reduce refining margins and improve gas prices.
Okay, so Daniel, how are the actions by the U.S. going to affect the CCP and China's economy? Because I ask this, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in an interview that Venezuela could be an operation hub for China, and oil reserves, he says, are controlled by adversaries. So what's the impact, for example, on China?
I think that the impact on China is very clear. China is going to continue to receive Venezuelan oil because China has invested more than $25 billion in Venezuela. The socialist regime has literally stolen that money, and there's very little that they're getting out of that investment. So they are receiving currently oil in exchange for the payment of all of those debts that the government was not able to repay. But I think that what Marco Rubio has said and what President Trump believes is that there cannot be a solution for Venezuela in which China is not playing a significant part. And that significant part means that China will be a part of the solution for the oil industry, will be a part of the solution for the infrastructure and for the recovery of many of the areas that have been completely abandoned. You go to Maracaibo these days and it looks basically like a war zone, no? All those things are relevant. So I think that from a, let's say, transactional and also diplomatic perspective, what Marco Rubio is saying, what President Trump is looking at, is at a solution for Venezuela in which China has a way out, in which they can at least recover a significant proportion of the amount of money that they have lost supporting the Maduro regime. And I think that the reason why Maduro has been detained so successfully and so quickly is partially because the traditional or alleged associates of the socialist regime have abandoned him in the past months, knowing that all of that support was basically squandered.
Well, all right, Daniel, it's definitely a complex situation, and we appreciate your comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz no longer running for a third term. How he explains his decision amid nationwide attention on alleged fraud in his state. More news after this break.
Hi, I'm Amy Grant. I was living with a rare heart condition, and the doctor said if I didn't take care of it, it would become catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life, and I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. Like so many women, I pushed through no matter what. But I've learned you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of other people.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives.
It's hard to imagine that a mom can die from pregnancy-induced heart failure, but thousands die every year. That's why your support is so urgently needed.
Any of us, every one of us, can make a modest monthly donation that actually helps and benefits everybody. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor. Thank you.
This
is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get two free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
A man is in custody after allegedly vandalizing the home of Vice President J.D. Vance this morning. 26-year-old William DeFore faces multiple charges, including criminal damage, vandalism, and trespassing. Authorities say he broke 4 windows at Vance's home in Cincinnati and also caused damage to a vehicle. The Secret Service contacted Cincinnati police around 12:15 a.m. after spotting a man on the property. DeFore was quickly detained and, according to local media, responded, quote, "I don't know," when advised of his rights. Vance and his family were out of town at the time. DeFore has a prior vandalism conviction and will be arraigned tomorrow. Action News 13 in Cincinnati reports that a high bond has been recommended due to the suspect's criminal history. In a post on X this morning, the vice president said, quote, "A crazy person had tried to break into his Ohio home by hammering on the windows," noting he and his family were not there at the time. He said he appreciated everyone's well wishes about the attack and was grateful to the Secret Service and the Cincinnati police for quickly responding. The vice president also asked the media not to show pictures of the house with holes in the windows, saying they're trying to protect their kids, quote, "as much as possible from the realities of this life of public service." Meanwhile, the Pentagon is censoring Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly for what they call reckless misconduct. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth also plans to demote the military veteran. In a statement on X today, Hegseth said this is due to a video message from last November. In that video, Kelly and 5 other Democratic lawmakers called on U.S. service members to refuse what they called illegal orders. They didn't specify what they think is an illegal order, but their video came amid the Trump administration's pressure campaign on Venezuelan drug boats. Hegseth called the video reckless and seditious, saying it sought to undermine good order and military discipline. The War Secretary said he will demote Kelly's military rank, which is currently Navy captain, within 45 days. This will affect Kelly's military pension. The senator has 30 days to respond. The Pentagon's actions stop short of the Trump administration's threat of a trial. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is no longer seeking re-election. This comes amid a welfare fraud scandal in his state that's grabbed nationwide attention.
In a statement on X today, Walz said he is no longer running for a 3rd term. And in his words, "Every minute I spend defending my own political interests would be a minute I can't spend defending the people of Minnesota against the criminals who prey on our generosity and the cynics who prey on our differences. So I've decided to step out of the race and let others worry about the election while I focus on the work." The Trump administration has deepened its investigation into alleged welfare fraud in Minnesota. Governor Tim Walz accuses Trump and his allies of politicizing the situation. Minnesota officials have until Friday to provide information about providers and parents who receive federal funds for childcare.
Lawmakers are returning to Capitol Hill with a pressing to-do list. The Senate convenes today for the 2nd session of the 119th Congress. The House is set to convene tomorrow. That chamber is poised to vote on extending newly expired Obamacare subsidies. The issue is a priority for Democrats, and some House Republicans have broken ranks to push the matter. And another government shutdown deadline is at the end of the month. And lawmakers were quick to weigh in on the developments in Venezuela. Many Republicans and at least one Democrat welcomed the news, while Democratic leaders are now forcing a vote to block the Trump administration from taking future action. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more.
Following the administration's removal of Venezuela's communist dictator, Republicans praised the action as successfully protecting Americans.
We do know that Nicolas Maduro, an illegitimate communist dictator and drug trafficker, is in prison in the United States, and that's a great thing. What we want is a future Venezuelan government that will be pro-American, that will contribute to stability, order, and prosperity, not only in Venezuela, but in our own backyard.
House Speaker Mike Johnson reminding Americans that Maduro was indicted by U.S. courts, writing he's responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans after years of trafficking illegal drugs and violent cartel members into our country.
This guy's engaged in all kinds of bad behavior, had a 5-year arrest warrant, was not recognized as the head of the state, ran a narco-terrorist criminal operation, and was cozying up to Iran and China, and he was doing it in our hemisphere, which is just wrong. And so the idea that he's now being brought to justice, I think, is a darn good thing. And I think most Americans see it that way.
What we need to do is focus more in Latin America. We've allowed the Chinese, the Russians, North Koreans, and the Iranians to have access or actually make inroads in Latin America because we have been asleep at the wheel. Plus, we've also had these dictatorships that are adverse to the United States. And this hemisphere should be the hemisphere of freedom and democracy.
Senator Eric Schmidt saying the Trump administration is rightfully pivoting the attention of foreign relations away from the Middle East, closer to home.
We're just simply not going to tolerate these tin-pot dictators who flood our country with criminals, who flood our country with drugs, that have hosted the Chinese and other adversaries as a base of operation for them. We're not going to allow that in the Western Hemisphere.
Meanwhile, many Democrats are taking issue with the administration's actions, some even eager to strip President Trump of his authority to take further actions. Senate Democrats are planning to force a vote this week on whether to formally authorize the U.S. military's actions in Venezuela.
Yes, the United States Congress has sat on the sidelines to allow presidents to become more and more powerful in foreign policy, but that doesn't mean that it suddenly gives an imprimatur of legality to this massive invasion of a foreign country that the American public didn't ask for.
Many Venezuelans in America have celebrated Operation Absolute Resolve. At least one Democrat, Congresswoman Debbie Westerman Schultz, welcomed Maduro's capture. Westerman Schultz represents the highest concentration of Venezuelans living in the U.S. She said she's happy he will be held accountable for his crimes, which includes crimes against humanity as well as narco-trafficking crimes. So I'm not shedding any tears that this reign of terror is over. Trump administration officials are expected to brief lawmakers on the military action in Venezuela this week. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
The CDC announces new recommendations for child vaccination. The announcement follows a review ordered by President Trump last month. We have more news after this break.
So at the age of 5, I was sexually molested. I had my first child at the age of 15 and became homeless at the age of 16. The scariest part about not having a place to live was having a child and not having a place to live and not knowing where our meal was going to come from and where we're going to sleep. To be homeless as a teen, I didn't ask for that.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or a warm meal to eat, or whether anyone cares about them. 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year, and that's unacceptable. But the good news is there is an organization making a big difference, Covenant House.
Call or go online now. For a gift of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis.
It was pretty tough, but Covenant House really helped me and really helped mold me into the woman I am today.
Call or go online right now to safeplacetosleep.org with your gift of just $19 a month. With your monthly donation, you'll receive this soft, comforting blanket as a reminder of the warmth and safety your gift will provide a young person tonight.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life. They gave me the love that I needed. They just really genuinely just wanted to help me succeed, and I'm succeeding.
Your $19 monthly gift is urgently needed to reach other young people who are facing unimaginable situations. Call or go online to safeplacetosleep.org.
Your support makes the work of Covenant House possible. Thank you for caring.
Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality, a timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.